All right. Before we get started, just a reminder, everybody silence your cell phones because I always forget to do that. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe Zimmerman. I'm the chair of the Ag Commission, at least today, February 25th, 2026. Time is 6:05, 6:06 now, and I will call this meeting to order. It is a hybrid public meeting of the Clark County Agriculture Advisory Commission. And just a reminder, regular meetings and public hearings of the Ag Commission are held in a hybrid format with both in-person and virtual participation options for commissioners, staff, and the public. This will allow for safe participation by commission members, staff, and any citizen interested in attending. For those of you joining remotely via computer, you should be able to see tonight's meeting agenda on your screen. If you can't see the screen or have joined by phone only, I'll be announcing the agenda items as we move through the meeting topics. Members of the public and applicants that have joined remotely are attendees. Other event participants cannot hear you unless you're cannot hear your audio, unless you are acknowledged by the commission chair or staff and are unmuted. This evening's agenda is planned as follows. We will have a roll call followed by approval of the agenda, approval of the January 28th meeting notes, general public comment, commission business, presentation of the climate element of the comprehensive plan, items that are for the good of the order, and then we will adjourn. Okay. We're going to start with a roll call of the commission members who are present. Commission members, please say here after I call your name. Miss Zora Oppenheimer.
Here.
Okay. Amy Treasure. Okay. Ruud Vandersalm.
Here.
Holly Hansen. Diane Dempster.
Here.
All right. Mo McKenna.
Here.
Dylan Haggerty. Sounds like a no. Justin Berger.
Here.
Kevin Dobbins.
Here.
Myself, I am here. Matthew Cornwall.
Here.
And Isaiah Irish.
Here.
And Tyler Berenson. Looks like he is absent. Okay, so we definitely do have a quorum. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I motion.
Okay, Isaiah Irish
Isaiah.
makes a motion. Do we have a second?
A second. Diane.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. Meeting minutes or meeting notes. We have in front of us, we have the notes from the January 28th Ag Commission meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to read the minutes? Mm-hmm. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from January 28th?
Mo McKenna, I move to approve the minutes.
All right. Do we have a second?
Diane Dempster, second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. Okay. Moving on to public comment. We'll now take public comment on any items outside of public hearing items. We will begin with any attendees in the room. Please approach the microphone if you'd like to make a comment. I don't see anybody in the room. I don't see anybody here to make a comment. Well, with that, we'll now take public comment from folks online. The staff will let you know what the instructions are. Go ahead.
you'll see instructions how to make a public comment online. I see only one person with their hand raised. It's Jude Waite, who is very familiar with our process. So Jude, I'll send you an unmute request and you can begin your comment.
Okay.
There she is.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
we
we-
can.
Great. Thank you. So I did submit some short comments. They would be long if it included the climate change. They would be long. if It included the climate chapter. Is that an echo? Okay, so
Might be.
briefly, I'm really glad that you are addressing this chapter and the growth management plan in general. I really thank the commission for taking this on. Obviously, it's going to be a future major endeavor because it's very much linked to what you all are doing here. And I really wanted to commend Jenna and Amy and Lauren for facilitating the climate project, which was the Environmental Justice Coalition and the Citizens Advisory Group. They also had a technical group that was not really public, but there have been many people working on this, and Jenna has done an amazing job on the chapter, which you will enjoy. And we, on those commission, the coalition, the Environmental Justice Coalition and the Citizens Advisory Group, we know these policies and goals like very intimately, and they have been rewritten a little bit, but that's like to make it clearer to everyone. So I really look forward to you diving into that. There's many, Jenna's done a great job cross-referencing everything. So if you looked up ag and food, you will find it in many places, in climate, land use, environmental, everything. And good luck, because it's really a complicated issue, but farmers and agriculture is really on the front lines. And we demonstrated that with our participation as the Farm and Food Justice Network on the coalition. And they also had great process. So even the CAG was like consensus based. So every goal that makes it into this final, I mean, there's like 4 that they didn't agree on, but everything else was a consensus. There wasn't Robert's rules, there was consensus. And the Environmental Justice Coalition really didn't need consensus because we just agreed. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Jude.
Yeah. Okay. Jude, thank you for your comment. Okay. Do we not have any other commentors?
There's only one other person online and there's no hand raised. So
Okay. If you do have a comment, please do raise your hand. Or what is it? Let me see. To raise or lower your hand for public comment, press *3 if you're calling in by phone. And 3, 2, 1. Okay. I guess we will continue on. All right. So we're moving on to commission business. Wow, look at that, folks. We're actually making our way through our agenda quickly. Okay, commission business. Let's start with number 1, an update on the comprehensive plan by Mr. Jose or Oliver or Bart.
Just me tonight. Jose Alvarez with Community Planning. So the day after your last meeting, the Planning Commission held a public hearing to deliberate on the recommendation for a preferred alternative, and they were able to make a recommendation after an hour and a half or so of deliberations. Essentially, they made a recommendation to the council, primarily to follow along with alternative 2 with some modifications. The first item would be in Yacolt there was a request for some residential expansions for residential and expansion for employment. They decided to recommend only the area to expand for employment. In Battleground, if you recall, part of their request was to move westward to Dollars Corner and remove the southwestern portion of their UGA that had previously been a part of Meadowglade, and return that back to rural. The Planning Commission recommendation was to retain that southwest portion in the Battleground UGA. And then the the third item was the expansion in the Vancouver UGA for employment, was also not recommended. The jobs could be included with the capacity that the city of Vancouver had, since it's in the same urban growth area. Just trying to go through, see if I missed anything. There was for Camas, it was just an expansion for the airport, not the other ag land. But for Ridgefield and La Center, they did go along with the expansion requests in alternative 2, but they also recommended a TDR program that went along with that. I can read it to you. It's a little convoluted, or we can share it with you. And the reason you might want to read it and be aware of it is that subsequent to the Planning Commission hearing, we had a work session with council last week, a long time ago. But what came out of that was a request to hear from Planning Commission members what their thought process was for their recommendation. It's not typically what we do. We transmit their recommendation and provide the minutes. But as part of that, the council also asked for a representative from the Ag Advisory Board to also attend a March 18th work session where they're going to talk about TDRs. We're going to have 2 folks from the private sector that have worked on TDRs. I don't know if it's going to be this. Well, I don't think the same person who did the Planning Commission will attend, but they're 2 people very knowledgeable about TDR developments in the state. Will be there. They've invited the cities of Ridgefield and La Center to have a discussion. I think Camas also on the interlocal agreement that's been proposed. And then again, we've invited Planning Commission member and someone from the Ag Advisory Committee. So if you can, as part of your process, find out who you want to send to represent the group.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Well, since we are at that junction, I suppose we probably should, as a group, make a decision on who we would want to send as a representative to this work session. You said it was March 12th? 18th. Excuse me.
Wednesday, March 18th at
That
9
one.
a.m.
Okay, great.
I'd be happy to attend this as Mo McKenna and speak on our behalf. First, I'll want to get some clarity on the position that this group wants me to share beyond what we already have discussed in these meetings. But if other folks would feel good about that, I'd be happy to represent us.
Okay. Mr. Jose, I was just curious. Okay. I know that it sounds like they would want one of the Ag Commission members to come. Would they be opposed to more than one?
Let's see.
I know that's a loaded question, by the way.
I just want to check my email. request representation from the Agricultural Advisory Commission. So
Okay.
if you wanted to bring
All
more
right.
than one, I think you're more than within.
Okay. I say we all go. No, I'm just kidding. No, we don't need all of us, but I would gladly accept other people who would like to go and represent the Ag Commission. Is there any other person ready, willing, and able to represent us at this work session? Okay.
This is Isaiah Irish. I will.
Okay, Isaiah Irish. And it looked like Ruud Vandersalm raised his hand. Would you like to? Would you represent us? Okay. Okay. Are you then saying that you would not necessarily go, Ruud? Okay. All right. All right. We have trust in you, Isaiah. Of course.
Justin.
Yeah.
I know you're not one that likes to act proud, but you're a pretty smart guy. What are your thoughts on the topic?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was just refraining because I'm non-voting.
Yeah.
I think just given the context, though, it would probably make sense to have somebody who has a little bit of understanding with TDR,
Okay.
background with TDR.
Mm-hmm. And remind me again, Justin, I apologize. This goes to personal conversations that you and I have had. You do have some knowledge of TDR, do you not?
Some, but it's pretty limited.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else? Sorry, before we go ahead, I should say, Mr. Justin O'Day, would you? No, you do not. Okay. 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 Yeah. And we know that, of course, Justin has to, shall we say, tread lightly with his position as a extension agent. Not really. Yeah. What's that? Oh, yes. Anybody online? Sorry, I don't mean to forget about you folks that are joining virtually here.
I think you guys have it covered.
We need you, Zora.
You don't, I
I was going to
promise.
say similarly. Yeah, I'm fine to help if needed, but I think you guys got it.
Okay. Okay. I was going to say, more than likely, I will try to attend that meeting as well. More than likely, I will simply come as moral support, but I will also try to make it, as long as, I'll put it this way. I'm running this meeting tonight, but I need you guys to tell me if I, if I should leave it to these two competent folks. Please tell me, and I will follow as directed. Mo. Okay. But yeah, I suppose. Oh, Dylan, did you? Yeah. No. Anyone?
Do we need to vote on this?
I don't know. Do you think we should vote on our representative body? I don't necessarily.
I don't think this is something that needs a vote if there's consensus in the group.
Is anybody opposed to Mr. Isaiah Irish, Mo McKenna, and like I said, I'll probably be there for moral support. If anybody has a reason, not to want us to support the, present the information, let us know right now. Yeah.
Kevin Dobbins, they're asking for our comments on TDRs, correct? Jose?
That's my, well, so let me back up and let me just read you the recommendation from the Planning Commission. So their recommendation on a TDR program, any agricultural land considered for UGA inclusion would be subject to an urban holding overlay and an interlocal agreement that allows a time certain for an equitable TDR program to be developed by the county with participation and inclusion of all stakeholders, resulting in an equitable solution to agricultural de-designation and designation in the county.
Could you give us your best opinion on what in the world that means? I'm not going to hold you to it, but they threw every keyword you could put in there to make everybody warm and fuzzy, but I have no idea what that says.
Right.
I think based on the conversation they were having, they, for the areas that they proposed to include in La Center and Ridgefield that have agricultural lands currently designated, they wanted to come up with a way to blunt the impact of that. And since this issue of a TDR was brought up as part of this process, the public comment Ridgefield brought up, they kind of went with that. There was a discussion about, having the Agricultural Advisory Committee be included in that discussion, but then someone wanted the building industry to be included. So that's where you ended up with participating in inclusion of stakeholders. That's where that language came from. Equitable solution. Yeah, that's just trying to be fair, I think is and also the language about it's de-designation and designation. So, and I think that's sort of a nod to the recommendation that you all made to look at potentially adding additional resource lands.
In that conversation with those folks, they are much more ready for that conversation than we are. We talked TDR, and that was we have no idea what that looks like. We have no idea.
I wouldn't sell yourself short. I don't think anybody really understands. So that's part of the work session, is to kind of educate the council on what TDRs are and sort of the range of things that are possible. I think TDRs have been talked about quite a bit without really that fundamental understanding.
But I guess what I'm getting at is, going into this conversation, everybody's going to be looking at us, and, we're just think we're slick by knowing the acronym TDR, and that's where our knowledge ends. Is this something we should be more knowledgeable on before we go there, or?
Well,
maybe I could, this is Sue Marshall, try to clarify a little bit, having watched that conversation and participated in the council conversation. I don't think anyone is at all clear on what a TDR is or how it can be applied, or whether or not it would be compliant with the Growth Management Act. This work session will have a couple of people who are experts in TDRs, and then we'll have we'll have 3 cities who are wanting to expand their growth boundaries onto agricultural lands.
Right.
We'll have someone from the Planning Commission, and we'll have a couple of you from the Ag Commission. And so we'll all gather, and people will talk. And I'm not exactly sure what the outcome will be. And it was not at all clear to me that the Planning Commission understood what they were asking for, because there was conflicting assumptions that came out in their discussion about no net loss, or inevitably there would be a net loss. So it's not really clear at all. But the 18th, more things will be said.
Right.
Kevin Dobbins again. Just so I understand this correctly, let's take housing growth. Right now, there's housing growth going on in cities. There's subdivisions getting put in, and then there's also subdivisions that have pushed past the city limits and are out in the county. That's something that's kind of more prevalent in Clark County than anywhere else. It was my understanding that once a city pulls something into the UGB, they get to zone it and do as they please, that the county was out of the equation. Is that correct or incorrect?
It's partially correct.
Okay.
So that's typically what happens for all the small jurisdictions, except for the city of Vancouver. So the city of Vancouver, the Vancouver urban growth area has, because of what was Hazeldale Sewer District, Clark Regional Wastewater District now, there's that service is available in the unincorporated Vancouver urban growth area, where you wouldn't be able to do that in any other jurisdiction until the city annexes it. So the county has land use jurisdiction over the unincorporated Vancouver UGA. So that's the only thing that's a little bit, that's different. So the development that happens in the unincorporated Vancouver UGA is something that the county controls. The city has no jurisdiction over that unless and until they annex it.
But I guess pertaining to us, you know, and what we're talking about conservation of farmland or whatever you want to call it. I mean, cities grow; they have to grow. You know, whatever is next to them gets consumed. That's the way it goes. But are we talking about holding up growth or in unincorporated areas? Or are we talking about this commission's then going to have an impact on city growth also?
Can I jump in? Okay. This is Mo. I had the opportunity to watch all of the Planning Commission meetings, and they had a work session prior to, I believe, the last session with a representative from King County, and they have a program that does this. I think the interesting differentiation that I got out of that, because the Planning Commission had an opportunity to ask some questions directly about the application that they're talking about in the context of a TDR program. And really, there keeps being this language around TDR programs, but the reality is that most counties don't use their TDR program. Instead, they have a mitigation program. And that's, I think, there seems to be some confusion around or conflation of those two things. So my understanding of our conversations coming out of the ag study as this body, we're really thinking about, yes, cities are going to grow. They're going to expand out of their limits, right? We know that that's going to continue to happen. But a mitigation program in many of these counties are set up to say, if you take this land that's next to the urban growth boundary and it's ag land, you have to designate adjacent land of similar quality, or you have to take 3 acres or 4 acres somewhere else and put it in. That's different than a TDR program. Right. A TDR program is like, well, there's TDR programs which would take like a development right, say that in a city, you can only build an apartment building 4 stories high, but you want to build it 6. So you could take a farmer and say, we're going to permanently conserve this farmland, and in exchange, we're going to build this building 2 stories higher. And it's oftentimes an open market, kind of like a carbon exchange or carbon credit. Then there's PDR programs where maybe the county would get involved. I think all of these things are being conflated into the acronym of TDR. And what I came away with from that was that there is a ton of work to be done in terms of this county understanding how to implement it. And my perspective is I'm happy to hear that they want Ag Commission members to be at the table to talk about the complexity of how we protect ag land in this process, and not just, oh, this is ag designated, this is land next door, but like this group having an understanding what qualities of that land would make it similar quality, right? What are the factors that are most important to that? And so I do think that is our role in this. It's not about maybe deciding how the whole program works or if it's an interlocal agreement or countywide. I certainly have my perspectives on that, but I think that there's a lot of conflation happening. And I do think that this body has a role to play in what happens next. And based on even the conversations that we had around the ag study, it seems like we would have some opinions about how it would be implemented. Like we talked a lot about the other rural land that is out there that is good agricultural land that's sitting there and is currently in another zoning. And this group could do great work around identifying which of those lands we would want to target to be designated should something near an urban growth boundary be designated. But that is a process. Okay, I'll stop. Sorry, that was too long, but I sat through a lot of hours of meetings.
And we thank you for it. Well, Kevin, does that pretty well?
I just wanted to be sure that we weren't going to show up and have them, you know, Joe, what's your opinion on this? How should we implement this? And,
Yeah.
you know, that we were to be able to speak knowledgeably.
Yeah, no, I understand. I do have a little something I'd like to add, but Miss Diane Dempster's been waiting for a while now, patiently.
Well, I just wondered if we needed to come up with
A little closer.
I just wondered if we needed to come up with kind of an official presentation or comments to that body. And I think if, you know, we can use our recommendations and a lot of the comments you just made, Mo, to put together something that we could present like we did to the Planning Commission that was more coherent, because I think you're right. There's a lot of confusion. People are talking about things all over the place. And I think, you know, that most people don't have the full amount of information. So if, you know, if we could come up with something that was based on our current, the recommendations that we had and how that would work in a good program, whether it's TDR or something else.
Right.
You know, that's what we would recommend, I would think, is that, you know, we want something that's going to work and something that's going to last long lasting. And it shouldn't just be, my opinion is that it shouldn't just be because, you know, two cities want to de-designate a bunch of ag land. So,
Right. Right. And that kind of leads into the little comment that I was going to make is that, yeah, I see this, you know, this discussion of TDR or PDR, purchase of development rights, is, you know, we've said many times, you know, the devil's in the details. Is we could go for a very simplistic one-to-one transfer of just ag designation only, or we could go to, you know, I mean, we could have one with, you know, some rubric of, you know, how, you know, okay, you want to add X number of living units within X number of acres, and you know, it's going to, you know, take away, you know, prime ag land, you know, maybe not designated ag land, but prime ag land, you know, of this many acres. And then how does that, you know, correspond with X number of acres out in a rural area? And, you know, I can see, you know, I mean, we could make it as structured or as simplistic as we want. And, you know, and here's the problem that scares me is if we don't do our homework, we could wind up with a really bad system for agriculture, if you will. I mean, and possibly for the county too, I suppose. There's another way to look at it too, is maybe a bad system for the county if we aren't careful. So we got to make sure we do it correctly. Yeah. Mo, you look like you got something else to say.
Yeah, I do. This is Mo. My thought coming out of those meetings are there are experts in the state that know how to do this. There are counties that have implemented programs many years ago. They understand the goods and bads and uglies of their programs and how to fix them, and they're putting fixes in place. This seems very clear to me that this needs to be a consultant that would study how we should implement TDRs, make a recommendation, and then just like the ag study, the Agricultural Commission would provide feedback, provide thoughts, expertise. But the idea that we would tackle this and on this timeline seems unrealistic.
The only thing I would add to that is that with the Planning Commission, we shared with them a work program that we received when we were considering TDR, maybe 2018, 17. And what we got was from our consultant was a 10-month sort of process. And one of the early phases of that is feasibility analysis. Will something work here? So there's a lot of detail that needs to be worked out. And we shared that with council at our meeting last week also. So I don't know that there's an expectation that a program will be in place as part of the comp plan. I think
Depends on who you talk.
that's true. But it's, well, if we're going to get this plan done within this year, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. This is Joe again. Jose, I had a quick question for you. I don't even know if this is an appropriate question. Do you feel that the Planning Commission would be okay if we were to say, listen, we can start the conversation with you, but this is kind of, if we were to essentially just say, as far as the designation of ag land and TDR, that part of it kind of just needs to be tabled, get us through the Planning Commission, or I'm sorry, get us through the comp plan. Sorry, words hard. Get us through the comp plan. And once the comp plan is done and submitted, then we can sit down and we can talk long-term about making this happen. Thoughts?
I think that message should be directed to the council itself.
Yeah, the Planning Commission's made their recommendation. It's on the council now. So everything should be directed to them.
Okay, wonderful. All right. Okay. All right. I hear that I've heard from, who was it that said that maybe we should come up with a, recommended, shall we say, talking points or recommended position of the Ag Commission. How would we want to move forward on that? What do you think?
This is Mo. I would mention that I think based on our last communications that we made in preparation for that joint meeting and then clarification, unless somebody has something that has drastically changed, I don't know that we need to spend time doing that, honestly. I think there's a lot there that this group did in that ag study work and in our last meeting where we clarified our position that from my perspective, is going to meet the need for this meeting, but I'm open to other thoughts. Y'all have done awesome work.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is rude. I mean, since it sounds like there aren't even concepts of a plan, doesn't really make a lot of sense to try and line out things that we want those possible, maybe some things to be. I think just us being called to the table to be part of that conversation of where concepts of a plan are made, I think that's already a good step.
This is Diane. I was the one that made the suggestion and I'm fine with that process.
Okay, wonderful. All right.
Just to let you know that we shared your recommendation with both Planning Commission and Council.
Okay, wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. All right. I'd love to see if there's anybody else that has any other comments about this. Otherwise, I'd be ready to possibly move on to the next topic at hand. Any last call here for comments?
This is Mo. I had one question for Jose, and you can follow up over email if you need to, but I think it would be great for the Ag Commission to understand in the Planning Commission's current recommendation, the total number of ag lands that would be de-designated.
See, there's like, what, 3, isn't there?
Because it's some version of alternative 2. And so getting that total number would be great.
Sure.
Okay. Calling again for any other last comments about the comp plan / TDR, PDR programs.
Root again, since sounds like starting on the ground floor, pretty much all of us, except for some experts being there. If I can work it in my work schedule, I would like to at least be there for moral support and start taking it in some too. Cause yeah, it sounds like this could be a very big thing.
Right. Right. Okay.
Did we share the recording of that King County expert with the Ag Commission? It was like a 30-minute overview of their program. It might be helpful for the Ag Commission to see that recording.
So just that section of the work.
Yeah, that 30-minute work session recording.
I think we can cut that out and paste it separately.
That would be awesome. I learned a lot.
Yeah. And you'll be able to, Bart, you'll be able to just shoot that to everybody as an email.
Well, we'd want to post it in a way that it's available to everyone.
Perfect.
But we can do that.
Right. You just send them the link to the planning commission.
The links on the planning commission. Yeah.
Yep.
we can
Yeah,
send
yeah.
them to them. Yep.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. And I had one last question myself here. Mr. Jose, you mentioned about the TDR program or TDR. What do you even want to call it? It was a ag land committee that was back in about 2017 or something like that, 2016, 2017, something like there. The information from that group, is it sitting on a shelf somewhere or in a filing cabinet?
Yes, and it's also, I think we put it on your webpage as a resource document as well.
Okay. All right. I was just curious, because I figure no reason to, reinvent the wheel if we've already done it one time. So yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Okay. Again, last call. Otherwise, we're moving on. Moving on. All right. We're down to the whopping number 2 in the commission business. Code Enforcement Committee update, Mr. Bart.
So that went a little longer than we thought, but it was a great discussion.
Yep.
In the spirit of moving things along and respect for Jenna and Amy's time, I just wanted to give a very brief update because we had that very productive meeting with the 4 members of the Code Enforcement Group in early January. And so I just wanted to bring everybody up to speed. I've been able to have a couple of the internal conversations that we discussed with program managers inside the county. I haven't been able to meet individually with everyone yet. The building official was on vacation for much of last month, but they just got back. So just to remind everybody that the topics that the Code Enforcement Committee wanted to emphasize was ag exempt buildings, uniformity of code enforcement and policy interpretation, a compilation of the most common rules that are applied to ag buildings and uses so that everybody could have them available, clarification of the rules for non-conforming ag buildings and uses, and then creation of some standardized guidance documents and brochures for typical ag buildings and uses. So each one of those items is a big task on its own, and I think they're all great items. When I had my conversations, especially with Brent Davis in the community development department, he was very supportive, but again, echoed what I think we all agreed to in our first meeting was that everybody needs to be at the same table. And that's been more time consuming than I thought it would be, getting everybody at the same table. But I just wanted this group to know that this topic is not backburnered, and the committee will, I will send an email to everyone probably next week, setting up a meeting to reconvene the group. So that's all I wanted to say, unless anybody had any comments about that.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Anybody? Okay, I did have a quick question for Mr. Bart there.
Yeah.
Last I heard, one of the issues we had going on was, what was it? A missing director of community, or that the director of community planning had left, wasn't it? Wasn't that it?
Not community planning, that's our director, Oliver, but community development.
Thank you.
They were
Community
recruiting
development.
for that.
Yeah.
And so a couple things have happened in the interim, and I think, I don't remember the new person's name. Jose, do you?
No.
Jose doesn't. either. But April, April Firth, who used to be the
Right.
director, is now has been appointed the assistant county manager. So that institutional knowledge is back in the building.
Oh,
at a
okay.
different level.
And she started back up Monday. So
Okay.
you can reach out to her and get the information that you've been requesting.
Because I shouldn't, well, suppose it doesn't matter. It's public information. I Googled her and she had made a quick trip to Chattanooga, Tennessee and back, I guess, huh? Okay. Wonderful. Okay. Any other comments? Concerns?
Yeah, I have a question. This is Zora.
Go for it.
The goal of the meeting that you're talking about setting up, Bart, can you just briefly describe?
The internal, I'm sorry, I'm leaning over in my video because I have a fixed mic and all the wireless mics around the table. The goal of the internal meeting is to have the memo of priorities from the committee that the committee all agreed upon in front of the internal staff so that they know what the concerns are prior to just walking into a meeting with the committee, because then if they did that, they wouldn't be in a position to know what those priorities were. That's really all it is.
Okay, so it's you're setting up a meeting with just county staff.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
got it. Thank you.
And my original goal had been for everybody to be in the same room all at once 3 or 4 weeks ago, but schedules of these directors are difficult to do. So it's turned into emails and individual meetings and things like that. So bear with me. That's the goal.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to commission business number 3, update on connections with other ag commissions around the state. And that was me. So I did have a wonderful conversation with Keith Stalker. Keith is one of the original Ag Committee members out of Snohomish County, Washington. And he and I had a wonderful conversation about, many ag, and by the way, folks, we're actually at a very important historical moment here in Washington, that there are actually many ag commissions being put online as we speak. For instance, Kitsap County is putting on an ag commission, and several others. And so, although I've been very busy lately and haven't been able to follow this up and get too many counties, spoken with, I know for a fact I should be able to connect with probably 5 or 6 counties here in the very near future. Folks, I apologize. I don't mean to just speculate here, but I'm hoping to maybe have something put together for us by, let's say, May, approximately May. That we might be able to have, and I see this as being a, somewhat informal Zoom meeting for, 2 or 3 hours, and 2 or 3, maybe even 4 hours, who knows? And we will hopefully be able to put together a little program where we can, have a little, shall we say, roundtable on, hey, what's each of these counties, what are we dealing with? And then, maybe we even plan for a second or even a third get together within the year or in the next, let's say, 6 to 12 months, that we can get together and share, whether it's best practices, whether it's TDR, PDRs programs, whether it's what we're dealing with, whether it's, code enforcement at the county level, state level, what have you, all of these things. You're more than welcome to ask me any questions you have. I don't know that I have an answer.
I just wanted to mention one thing. Public Health had done some initial work that actually led to the formation of the Ag Commission and did a survey of all of the ag commissions around the state and put together a summary of all that with links to them and their bylaws, all of which we gleaned from. And I don't know if that's been made available to the committee, but I think that was some very good work that was done by Public Health.
Yeah, I'm happy to share that out.
Oh, wonderful. That'll save me a lot of time. At least trying to get a hold of individual folks. So yeah. Any other questions? Like I said, I'm gonna start that probably here in the next 2 or 3 weeks, only because I've got a bunch of other things going on here in the next couple of weeks.
Joe, this is Justin O'Day. I was just going to mention that if Skagit County, I'm assuming they have an ag commission.
Right.
They
Right.
do.
Yeah.
It's just from what I've gathered over the years, one of the most ag forward counties in the state by far.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that helps with prioritization.
Right.
Who to contact and who might be really helpful.
Right. Actually, with one of the things with Keith Stalker is he had already kind of listed out for me. He goes, certain counties are going to be a definite. I don't want to say a definite yes. It's not about yes or no. But this county's in. We'll contact them later. There were a handful of counties that we didn't know about. For instance, Thurston. It's kind of like yes, no. I don't know. Do they have an ag commission or not? Lewis County was another one. Do they have one or not? Go ahead, Miss Diane.
I know Thurston County does have an ag commission.
They do?
and
Okay.
it's fairly
There you
well
go.
Established, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. All right. Any other questions or comments, concerns? No? Okay. Moving on to number 4. Understanding current status of the Rural Events Task Force recommendations. Mr. Jose will provide a brief overview of the recommendations and current status.
Let's see. So the conversation we were having previously regarding April 1st, that's the follow-up we're going to do. I don't know, we weren't able to find the current recommendations. So that's what we'll touch base with April and get those. And I think on their webpage, it talks about the county council may review the recommendations in 2026.
Okay.
I'm not sure where that came from, but I'll follow up and see.
Right. If I could ask real quick here, this is Joe, of course. I know I followed that committee a good little bit, and it just seemed like the committee stopped. Now, please understand, I'm not trying to make accusations here. Did it kind of stop when April left the county? Was that kind of it, a bit?
I really don't know.
Okay.
I don't know that they came to any agreement. I only attended one meeting early on,
Right.
but I'm not sure how far they got. And it was rural land
Right.
that they were looking at, not agricultural.
Oh, yeah,
land.
no,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
understandable. But
So maybe they'll find some recommendations. The council has not been briefed
Okay.
on whatever came out of that committee.
Okay. All right. Before I say anything here, does anybody have any comment about that Rural Events Task Force recommendations? Anyone? Bueller? Oh, just kidding. All right. I would like to make a comment myself, by the way. I don't know what it would take to get, let's put it this way. I know it's recent enough. We should be able to, shall we say, recall those committee members. Could we not? Yes? No, maybe.
I think you should maybe figure out what it is that you would like to do related to rural or agricultural events or agritourism. I think there's a broader issue that committee didn't address.
Right. Well, and I, have kind of, as you alluded to, is they kind of, never really came to a, shall we say, a conclusion. And I at the risk of sounding exceptionally vague, I guess that's my frustration is that, okay, what's the conclusion, and it almost, I apologize. I'm just, making comments now, but I almost wanted, ask them to, can we lock you guys in a room and not come out until you guys come up with something on how we're going to handle on-farm events in rural areas, So, yeah.
Well, I appreciate the point that it was rural only. That zoning, I mean, that does feel like I'm curious about what the outcome was and what the discussion was of that. I think it's relevant to this group in our work. And I think very clearly we would be interested in some other designations being on that list as the Ag Commission,
I was on that task force and I don't think I could articulate exactly what the recommendation was going to be that was going to come through the people that were facilitating it. But I can say that there was a lot of good discussion that was had throughout the whole process.
Okay.
And when it came down to it at the last day, when the recommendation had to be like narrowed down, formulated, I felt like, and I was also like in a situation where I was non-voting.
Of course.
I was there to help inform. And my impression was that it lacked nuance. A lot of the nuance that we had talked about didn't end up in the final recommendation.
Okay.
Draft.
Okay.
And I felt like if it moved forward, it was still going to need quite a bit of work.
Okay.
In order to incorporate the nuance that was lost.
Okay.
I'll just pause for a second. Yeah. Are folks on the Ag Commission, do you have any idea what we're talking about here? It's okay. Okay.
Okay.
So there was a task force to look at the possibility of, I guess, extending, or should we extend the opportunity for events to be hosted for other at other like designations. Because in Clark County, currently only wineries can host events.
Right.
And so that's what this was kind of designed to do, I guess. But like yeah. So we're just trying to get a better understanding of what was discussed and what came out of it, because we know that in our last meeting, agritourism was something that this group wanted to look at. And so there was just kind of a fact-finding mission of what happened there to better understand kind of us tackling this going forward. So I would just put out to staff that we're going to talk about retreat next and setting up committees around that. And I do think having some information about this task force before that retreat would be helpful.
This is Justin again. I wanted to add one more thing. There was like a second, I wouldn't call it quite like an agenda, but there was a second thing going on in the background with that as well. Because it wasn't just about like, if new people come online and want to have events at their rural space, there was the second thing was that there was already people that were essentially like out of compliance.
Right.
And this would help bring people in. So they were trying to finagle from like both sides.
Okay.
And they didn't always
see eye to
dive
eye.
well.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments? Anybody want to make a comment at this time? Anybody online? Oh, Ruud Vandersalm. Looks like you have your.
Was this task force set up like we are, that with county staff and minutes and things like that? Like if we could just get
more.
Okay. So no, never mind.
I don't know if there were minutes. There was staff. Actually, April was the staff person for this committee. It was just a task force, a short term. Thought it would be an easy task to see how they could duplicate something that the wineries had. But you guys are in code.
Okay. All right. I'm going to ask one more time. If there's anybody else that has comments, especially from the online folks, anything? Oh, okay. I always like to ask first because when I have comments, I always want to make sure that I'm not excluding other folks here. Okay. I have a curiosity, if you will. Is there a chance that we could possibly have, shall we say, a report from this group to, in other words, you pick a couple of select individuals who were part of this group? Did and Jose, I apologize, I don't want to put you on the stand here, but did this group have a leader? Other than April Firth, did it have a chair? Anything like that?
I have no knowledge of.
Oh, I thought you were involved in that. No? Okay. All right.
I missed this one.
Oh, you missed that one. Justin, do you happen to know, did they have a chairperson?
They didn't have a chair. It was more like it was code enforcement staff that ran the meetings.
Okay.
Along with their staff.
Uh-huh.
And it was more like the task force advised the process.
Okay.
But there was no chair, there was no minutes.
Okay. And I don't even know if there's a, shall we say, a precedent for asking, if we could have I don't know, I guess I would say, a presentation by two or three of the, folks.
So what we're going to do is have a conversation with April and see if we can find any documents that we can share with you.
Sure.
So that it brings you up to speed onto where they ended.
Perfect.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. Sounds good. I don't want to speculate much further than that, but thank you. Thank you all, everyone. Last call, by the way. Any other comments about this topic? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to agenda item number 5 for commission business here. The retreat agenda and feedback. Mo and Lauren.
I'm actually going to suggest that we bump this in the interest of time here and move to the climate presentation first, and then we'll see how much time we have for that.
Got it. Done. Okay, I'm going to move on to the presentation of the climate element of the comprehensive plan. We have Jenna Kay with community planning here in person and Amy Koski with public health virtually. Go ahead, take it away.
Good evening. Can you all hear me okay? So that's better. Okay. So as mentioned, my name is Jenna Kay, and I'm a land use planner in the county's community planning department. So I'm in the same department as Bart and Jose. And I've been serving as the project manager for some work that the county's been doing on implementing new state climate change planning legislation. So we're here to give you an update and introduction to this work if you're not familiar with it. Joining me in this presentation is Amy Koski. Amy works in public health and is the built environment coordinator and was working with me on this project. She works on the same team as Lauren. So it's been a very public health planning collaborative project. And yeah, let's jump in. Okay, so and the slides were printed, so you should be able to follow along as well. So our plan for our presentation is to give you some background on what it is we've been doing. We'll share some key definitions and data that are kind of underlying this work. We're going to talk about what is being proposed to bring forward to the Planning Commission and County Council, and then end with what's next with the process, and then hopefully have time for questions. All right, next slide. So we're going to dive into the background, and we can go to the next slide. Okay, so this project came about because a bill called HB 1181 was signed into law in 2023. So this is a Washington state bill that passed a couple years ago. And this legislation added a new climate change and resiliency goal to the state's Growth Management Act. So I think, as you all probably know by now, the Growth Management Act is the Washington state's major land use law that guides how governments plan for use of land. So with the addition of this new goal, The law requires that the county add a climate element to its comprehensive plan. So think of element as a chapter. So we have to add a climate chapter into the county's comprehensive plan. And this chapter needs to help improve climate resilience for the county, as well as help reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Some other key themes in this legislation include environmental justice and needing to develop policies that benefit those most vulnerable in our community to climate impacts. And there's some other requirements on basing this work on best available science and needing to be consistent with guidelines developed by the State Department of Commerce. We also have a mandatory due date to do this work by the end of last year. Next slide. So a little bit more detail on those pieces. So for the resilience part of our work, the law says that we need to identify goals, policies, and programs that the county will pursue over the next 20 years to identify, protect, and enhance natural areas to climate impacts, identify, protect, and enhance community resiliency, which includes social, economic, and built environment factors consistent with environmental justice. And we need to be addressing natural hazards that are expected to be aggravated by climate change. This portion of the work also has to prioritize actions that benefit overburdened communities that will disproportionately suffer from compounding environmental impacts and natural hazards due to climate change. Let's go to the next slide. And then on the greenhouse gas side of work, similarly, the county needs to come up with actions it will take over the next 20 years to help reduce greenhouse gas emissions and vehicle miles traveled per person on average without increasing emissions elsewhere in the state. And these actions have to prioritize reductions that benefit overburdened communities to maximize co-benefits of reduced air pollution and environmental justice. Okay, so that's our synopsis of what this law says the county has to do. And Amy's going to share a little bit more about how we did some of our work.
So thanks, Jenna. This is our project timeline, and we have had 5 phases where we're about to enter phase 5. We first convened the project advisory groups in February of 2024 and wrapped up phase 4 of the overall project in April of last year. We have this draft climate element and proposed policies that are ready to go for the county's comprehensive plan adoption process. And since this project ties to the rest of the comprehensive planning work, the adoption process won't take place until the rest of the comp plan is ready for adoption. So we are running behind, which is why the timing for adoption is now estimated for this year, 2026. Next slide, please. We've done quite a bit of community engagement as part of this project. And in addition to facilitating community-wide engagement events, we worked with 3 advisory groups. You can see those listed here: the Community Advisory Group, or CAG, the Environmental Justice Coalition, or EJC, and the Partner Agency Team, or PAT. We had nicknames for all of them. So the Environmental Justice Coalition, this was an equity-focused group that included 15 community-based organizations that the county contracted with to help with community engagement. And these organizations all served overburdened community members and helped us collect feedback throughout the project that helped inform the policy list. This group also guided the development of an equity lens that was used to evaluate the draft policies. And I wanted to make sure to mention, you've heard it a little bit tonight, but we had some key members, some participating within the ag community involved in these groups. So Farm Food Justice Network was one of the EJC organizations representing farm owners and workers. Ann Foster represented ag and food system interests on the CAG. And then we had the Clark County, or the Clark Conservation District, and WSU Extension representing technical input on the partner agency team. So in short, there were lots of people who were providing lots of input along the way. And so we wanted to make sure we shared this with you. Jenna, I think it's back to you for some definitions.
Okay, so we're going to share some definitions and data with you. This is all available for reference to dig into more later. So I'll give the overview. So we're going to talk a little bit more about resilience and what we mean when we are using that term. There is a definition written into state law, which is what's on the slide. And so when we're talking about climate resilience for this project, we mean the ongoing process of anticipating, preparing for, and adapting to changes in climate and minimizing negative impacts to our natural systems, infrastructure, and communities. So what do we mean when we say changes in climate here in Clark County? So if we go to the next slide, there are climate projections for all counties in Washington state. And so we honed in on those for Clark County. And when we look at those projections under a business as usual emissions scenario, we see that the county is projected to have more hot days, more likely summer drought, more high fire danger days, more days with smoky air, more extreme precipitation events, more frequent and severe flooding along certain streams and rivers, and more likely landslides in certain places in the county. So when we're talking about a changing climate, these are the changes we're talking about, changes in specific natural hazard event frequencies and patterns in our community. Okay, next slide. And I know that is hard to see. We do have an easier to read version of that too that we can share with you all. Okay, so when planning for resilience, we can't plan to change the number of hot days, right? As a county, we have no control over that. So our job is to plan for the impacts that are associated with these changes in climate. So for instance, planning for being better prepared for more hot days in the summer so that everyone has a place to cool down and stay safe. So we have a link on this slide that has it's basically a summary table of different climate impacts across different sectors in our community. And so you're welcome to look at that if you want to look at the details, but I did pull out some of the ones related to agriculture and food systems and put them on the slide. So examples of climate impacts that we are thinking about and wanting to plan for are things like reduced water availability for livestock and crops, especially in the summer, heat stress on plants and livestock and pests being more able to thrive, delayed spring planting and damage to crop quality or quantity, erosion and runoff of agricultural pollutants, fire damage to plants and animals, health hazards for farmers and other outdoor workers, as well as things like disruption to food distribution networks if our roads and transportation is disrupted. All right, so hopefully that's giving you a flavor of the types of things we were thinking about as we went into this planning process. Okay, next slide, I'm going to jump back to greenhouse gas emissions and focus on, a definition for what we mean when we talk about greenhouse gas emissions reduction. So this definition was provided by the State Department of Commerce, and it means actions taken to reduce or eliminate the emissions of greenhouse gases, present and future, in order to reduce the rate and extent of climate damage. So that is the definition, our working definition for this project. And we can go to the next slide. To do this work, where we're focused on reducing greenhouse gas emissions, we started out by doing what's called a greenhouse gas emissions inventory. So basically an accounting exercise to track where greenhouse gas emissions are coming from in the county. And it's really just a way to create a baseline that we can measure against as we move forward. And so this slide is the snapshot of the results of that inventory. And it's based on 2022 data. And these are locally produced emissions. So that means emissions produced by activities happening within the unincorporated county plus any emissions tied to our electricity sources. So that's not always in the county. The focus of our greenhouse gas emissions planning work is we are supposed to be trying to get these emissions to net zero over time. So that's the goal, is I understand where the emissions are coming from and figure out how to move our community towards net zero. So I'll just talk through a few pieces of the slide. So this inventory showed that the county has about 1.5 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent of emissions, which is about 6 metric tons per person. I don't know if those numbers mean anything to you, but for some context, that is less than the statewide average in Washington, which is, I think, closer to 10 or 11 metric tons per person. But it's higher than the global average, which is closer to 4. So we are not doing the best, but we are not doing the worst in terms of our emissions here in the county. If you look at where these emissions are coming from, the largest sources come from transportation and building energy. So transportation, the gas and diesel in our vehicles and equipment is contributing to those. For building energy, our electricity and natural gas is contributing to the majority of those emissions. The third largest source of emissions in the county come from agriculture, forestry, and land use. So I'm going to unpack that a little bit more in a couple slides on what went into those numbers, because I'm assuming you might have some questions. And then there's a small amount of emissions related to industrial process and product use. That's things like refrigeration is the main source in the county. And then there's a little bit that comes from our solid waste and wastewater. All right, let's go to the next slide. So our inventory also looked at emissions related to the goods and services that we buy in the county, but those things weren't created here. And so we call these imported emissions. And the largest source of emissions in this category are the consumption of goods, so the things we're buying that come from other places, followed by food production. So just to give an example here, if you go to the grocery store and buy some meat and it came from a cow in California, that shows up on this slide as, emissions related to California, but related to something we bought here. But if that came from a cow here in Clark County, those emissions would have been on the previous slide because the emissions tied with that cow count for the county if it was located here. So just an example of how these numbers get divvied up. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this chart is just taking the same numbers from the previous slide and showing them in a different format as a bar chart. And there's 2 things I wanted to highlight. One is we've got our local emissions on the left and our imported emissions on the right. And those imported emissions are a lot bigger and more than the emissions we are creating here in our county. So we recognize that the things we buy and consume here in the county are related to more greenhouse gas emissions than what that are being produced here. However, this law is focused on the emissions on the left side, those locally produced emissions. And I mean, part of that is because we have more authority and direct, we can more directly impact those local emissions than those imported emissions. Doesn't mean we can't do anything about those other emissions, but we just have a lot less direct impact on them. So our primary focus for this work is on that left-hand side of this slide. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so I wanted to dive a little bit more closely into the 21% of emissions in that agriculture, forestry, and land use bucket to just explain what the emissions are related to. So the pie chart on the left shows the makeup of where those emissions came from. So 75% are related to net forest carbon loss, which is related to that's basically tree loss is what that is. The next largest amount comes from livestock, primarily related to methane emissions and manure management. And then there's a small amount that comes from soil amendments, such as application of nitrogen fertilizer. So data used to come up with those numbers. The livestock data is based on the USDA's 2022 census of agriculture for the county. And there's like a different amount of emissions associated with each type of animal that gets calculated out to come up with that number. And then for the soil amendment number, that's based on there's a Washington State inventory that's made estimates on that. And so then it's based on acres of harvested cropland in the county. We sort of scale that back. So that number is a little less accurate than the livestock number, but that's how those numbers were calculated. I think the one other thing I'll mention on the right side of the screen is just showing that we're talking about net forest carbon loss when it comes to trees. And so, we lose emissions when trees are cut down, but we know planting trees and trees growing over time help sequester carbon. So there's a positive and a negative with trees that can get added together. And then we look at the difference for the net amount. Okay. I'm going to pass it over to Amy.
All right, we can move to the next slide, please. So at the beginning of the presentation, Jenna mentioned HB 1181 has new requirements related to environmental justice. And so we wanted to provide some more information about that. That included new definitions for vulnerable populations and overburdened communities. And so I'll just read these briefly. Vulnerable populations are population groups that are more likely to be at higher risk for poor health outcomes in response to environmental harms. And overburdened community is a geographic area where vulnerable populations face combined multiple environmental harms and health impacts. And through the work that we did for the project, migrant farm workers and outdoor workers often showed up as being a vulnerable population. Next slide, please. So we had to keep these definitions top of mind throughout the project. And one way that we did that with the help of the EJC was to review potential policies through an equity lens, where we considered the impact of policies, who was impacted, and what we could do to reduce impacts and enhance benefits. There's a complete copy of the equity lens that we used on the project webpage, but there's also the list of the 3 questions that were kind of the main part of the lens as well on the slide there. Another way that we held true to these definitions and incorporated them throughout the project was to use the Washington State Environmental Health Disparities Map. A snapshot is included there on the right, and that's for Clark County, the Environmental Health Disparities Map for the county. This map combines 19 factors related to socioeconomic and environmental health data. And it might be a little hard to see, but the darker purple indicates a more burdened community and a lighter color indicates a less burdened community. So this map is an example of some of the types of data that we considered for this project to help us better understand who's vulnerable and where they are in the county. So I think Jenna is going to get into the policies now.
Okay, so thank you for bearing with us with just dumping a lot of background information on you. But we do now have a draft set of policies, which we wanted to introduce you all to. And so the policy list is quite long. There's about 32 goals and about 100 policies. And this slide is all the topics in one snapshot. It's a little hard to read, but I'm going to just highlight a few things from here. So we've bucketed the policies into 7 categories. being health and well-being, green jobs, ecological stewardship, transportation and land use, building and energy, waste management, and county governance. And while there's actually, I think, several different goals and policies that do relate to the agriculture and food sector, I just want to draw your attention to where the star is on the screen. We have one goal related to food economies, and then another goal related to agriculture and landscaping. So I'm going to talk about those two in particular today as my examples, but we do have a link so you can review the full list if you wanted to. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, so I wanted to review these two food and ag related policies. So the first goal, 14.5, is to promote holistic and resilient local food economies. There are 10 draft proposed policies in alignment with this goal. They can be found on pages 16 to 17 of the draft climate chapter, which we provided a link to here. And these policies under this goal are things like expanding local food security, preservation of existing agriculture through prioritization of infrastructure, support for relocation of food distribution nodes in hazard-prone areas, establishing agricultural production areas, corridors, or neighborhood networks, development of a food access and availability plan, promoting and supporting public and private food-producing gardens, market farms, and urban ag, development and implementation of right-to-food policies, enhanced food waste prevention and diversion programs, collaboration with community partners on public education for household and business food waste reduction strategies. And then we also have a policy that cross-references policies in the rural and natural resources chapter around ag land protection and preservation and things like that. So clearly I'm skimming through this very quickly. I highly recommend that you read the actual language than just taking my high-level explanation for it. But the other goal is 14.6, and it says, promote holistic, regenerative, and sustainable agriculture and landscaping community-wide that provides high-quality food while reducing greenhouse gas emissions and improving resilience to changing environmental conditions. And then there are 5 proposed policies related to this goal on pages 17 to 18 of the draft climate chapter. And so these policies talk about things like providing support for low or zero greenhouse gas emitting farm and landscaping equipment, seeking grants and incentives to help reduce ag and landscaping related greenhouse gas seeking grants and incentives to help reduce ag and landscaping related greenhouse gases related to fertilizers and amendments, collaborating with partner agencies on education on more regenerative, sustainable ag practices. There's a policy that talks about reducing barriers to ag throughout the county, and it lists a whole lot of things, including and other efforts coordinated through the Clark County Agricultural Advisory Commission. I think you all were being established as these were getting drafted, so you are named in one of those policies. And then there's another policy talking about programs and technical assistance, providing direct or indirect financial assistance to farmers to help with best management practices around dealing with impacts from climate change. Okay, so like I said, we recommend you actually read the language. This is just your introduction to them, and hopefully these links and pointing you where in the chapter to focus is helpful, so you don't have to read the whole thing if you don't want to. Okay, let's go to the next slide. All right, so we're going to move towards wrapping up, and we can go to the next slide, and we'd like to relook at the timeline. So as Amy said earlier, we are getting ready for the adoption process. So we have the draft policies and a draft chapter that also has background information in it. And these policies will go to the Planning Commission and County Council, who will have hearings on them. Members of the public can submit written comments or provide verbal testimony at those hearings. So if that's of interest to you, either as individuals or if as a group you want to provide comment, you all are welcome to do that. on my last slide, we have a link to the project webpage. So if you do want to make sure you are getting updates, like when the hearing for these policies is going to be held once it's been scheduled, you're welcome to sign up for updates for our climate work. The adoption process for these policies is tied to the broader comp plan update process. So we're kind of on hold until the rest of the comp plan project gets to the point for this hearing. So we're reworking the schedule right now. So it's probably going to be in a couple months at the earliest when the hearings would happen with Planning Commission and County Council. So we wanted to make sure this was on your radar so you all can begin to think about if that is something you want to provide feedback on when the time does come. Ultimately, the County Council will be the ones voting on these policies, and whatever they approve, then staff can begin to work on implementing and moving those policies forward. And anything related to ag, we would be coming back to you to discuss how we're going to do what those things are. Okay, so let's just go to the last slide. We're going to stop here. This slide has link to our project webpage. The QR code also takes you to the project webpage. My contact information is there. And so if you have questions after the meeting, feel free to reach out. But Lauren and Bart can also relay questions to Amy and me as well. So thank you very much.
All right. Jenna and Amy, thank you very much for the presentation. Do we have any comments about the presentation? Anybody?
I have a question. This is Mo. So the state required that this climate element be done as part of comprehensive planning. Is the state offering any money to the county in terms of implementation of what we're recommending? Because I see awesome stuff in here, and I think, who is doing that work?
Good question. So the state has funded us to do the planning work so far. So we did get grants to let us work with all our advisory groups and do our community engagement and so forth. And there's starting to be more climate funds being distributed through the state. I think we are still waiting to see if it's going to be that we really are going to have to chase grants for every single project, or if there's going to be some more flexible funding coming. So based on the staff we talked to at Department of Commerce, they've been asking us a lot of questions and are trying to figure out how the funding's going to be rolling out. So I guess the short answer is we expect some funding. We don't know, how much exactly, we don't know the details, but that is going to be pretty key to moving a lot of these things forward.
Okay. Any other questions? I did have a quick question for you. Jenna, if we can go back to greenhouse gas emissions by sector. We can scroll back to that slide there. Yeah, there you go. That down there, Bart. Perfect. Okay. I was just curious. I was wondering if you can help me out here. First of all, is this just greenhouse gas emissions for Clark County?
This is greenhouse gas emissions for only the unincorporated county
okay.
in agriculture, forestry, and land use.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I'm sorry. I'm a bit of a novice on this, but I did just have a question. I was wondering if you could set me straight here.
Yeah.
Net forest carbon loss. Okay.
Yes.
I have always kind of been under the impression that forestry is one of the only industries that truly is a carbon sequestrator. Is that even a word?
Yeah.
Tree sequesters carbon. You cut the tree into lumber. The lumber still sequesters the carbon. You use the lumber still sequesters the carbon. You grow another tree.
Yeah.
Now I can see a situation, you cut a tree, you shred it up for paper production, and I can see where it's like, well, the process of creating paper out of the tree is a net loss. I get that. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's some loss in, lumber production too. Can you help me out here? I mean, it just, and please understand, this is not me saying your numbers are wrong. That's not it. I'm just curious if you can set me straight here. Not to mention, I do believe that Washington and Oregon both are in a situation where we are actually cutting less board feet annually than we are creating annually.
Yeah. Yeah. No, these are good questions.
Okay.
So this is estimated, if I remember correctly, and we do have a very detailed report on our website, but our consultants were looking at satellite imagery sort of for tree canopy cover. And I think they look at a 20, where most things are a single year. For the trees, they are looking at like a 20-year period. So pros and cons to the various approach, for measuring this. So what we don't know, this was, done at a very high level. There's the forestry where trees are getting cut down and replanted. There's also tree loss because of development and things like that as well. So the what is driving the net loss, I think, is a good question. I also see Zora's on the line and can speak probably to the forestry piece of this as well, because I do think it's good questions, right? There's a lot of opportunity with trees, and there's a lot of good practices already in place in a lot of places. So, yeah.
Sure. And with that, Zora, if you had anything to add to this, I'd love to hear if you had a chance.
Well, I raised my hand because I when I saw this, I had a similar question. I think that we might have brought this up in our comments from the district when we had that opportunity, because I do think it's potentially problematic, because at least based on driving around the county, I would hazard a guess that a lot of the net carbon or net forest carbon loss is not due to forestry, but is in fact due to land conversion. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but that would be my guess. And I think it in some ways does what we do a disservice. But I also get the data is imperfect, and we have to do what we can. So I don't know. You kind of asked my question, Joe, and so that's kind of what I had.
Okay. Well, great. I'm glad we had a mind meld there, I guess, for a minute. Okay. All right. Anybody else? Are there any other comments? Go, Mo. I see your hand pushing the button.
This is Mo. I mean, I think it's similar to when I look at that livestock number, that regenerative practices of raising livestock can sequester a great deal of carbon. So practices really matter in that sliver, but to my knowledge, we don't have any survey or census or anything in the county in terms of what practices livestock farmers are using. So I think as we think about the next steps here, I'd be very curious about practices.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, it was like looking at the number of animals and multiplying it by, right, it's treating all cows, dairy cows the same, all beef cows the same, so yes, it's not the most refined. And I do think, kind of in alignment with some of the proposed policies, it's, let's dig into the how, right, a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, this is Joe Zimmerman. I'll make another quick comment. I'm just going to throw out there, just so we say, food for thought. I see this comment here about soil amendments, and my deepest apologies. I don't remember a figure, but I came across a figure a while back. Of course, everybody knows that there's a lot of, say, concern about agriculture and farmers using chemical fertilizers. And then I came across an article a while back that said something along the lines of like 2/3 of all chemical fertilizers are used by landscapers or essentially used to make grass green in your yard, so kind of this thing of, makes me wonder about that soil amendment number, and chemical fertilizer with that is how much of that is shall we say, homeowner and not agriculture related. So anyhow, golf course. Oh God. Yeah. Just throw that out there for public information. The concerning weed killers on a per acre basis, the number one user of weed killers on a per acre basis is golf courses. It is not agriculture. Yeah. All right. All right. Anyone else for comment? Go ahead. Go.
I mean, sounds like there's things that definitely overlap with us, wanting to increase food production in Clark County, infrastructure for agriculture and efficiency of water, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah.
Okay. All right.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Diane.
What are the next steps for these recommendations? I understand, that comp plan needs to get approved, but is there steps that go beyond that in terms of when the plan is approved, that some of these recommendations get implemented, or how does that work?
Yeah, so right now the proposed policies are just that. They are a proposal. And so they don't become policy until county council votes on them. But once council votes, then it's staff's job to move towards implementation. And we have to do that in collaboration with the county council as well in terms of what we are prioritizing and doing first. The policies are, there's like a wide range, right? Some of that's going to be staff's going to do some code work. Some of it is we should come back and talk to you all and ask you for some suggestions on either what to prioritize off of the ag related items or things like that. So some things are more programmatic, some of it's more go find money so you can distribute it. So there's just a bunch of different things. And so the implementation will vary depending on what the policy is. So I don't know if that's the most helpful answer, but that's generally how it will work. And different county departments are going to be on point for different policies as well. So there'll be different people at the county working on implementation.
Go ahead.
I don't know if it's our place to ask this or my place. Track that number.
Sorry.
On the net, the net forest carbon loss. If it is from development, I feel like we're kind of taking the blame for this, and it's something you take that number out, and we're nothing.
Right. I didn't make up the categories. These are apparently the standard greenhouse gas inventory protocol categories, but I will just note that the land use is listed there, which is what's covering the land conversion piece. So perhaps it's more the context around sharing the numbers to help explain that is part of this puzzle as well. Yeah. And I also would say, I think with these, this is a math exercise, right? That I wouldn't put too much weight in exact numbers either. We're kind of looking for patterns and trends. And, the ag sector plays a part. Is it the largest part? Not at all, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's sort of that's the level that I'm operating at least at this point.
Yeah. This is Joe Zimmerman. I have to say, you heard me say earlier in the meeting here that the devil's in the details. In this case, it almost seems like the devil's in the description of the pie chart, if you will. Yeah. A couple of word changes, and that would be a totally different pie chart, if you will. Okay. Rude, go ahead.
Yeah, ag would be 5 or 6%.
I'm sorry. What was that? What was that, Rude? Can you say that again? I didn't quite catch that.
Ag is 5 to 6% of the full greenhouse emissions.
Oh, okay, got it.
Because we're a quarter of that, and that's 21%.
Oh, there you go. Okay. All right. Any other comments? Anyone? Going once? Going twice? Okay, we're going to move on, but I do have a quick question. Miss Amy Koski, are you part of the Brush Prairie Berry Koskis?
No, I can't say that I am. but
Okay, because there was a farm in Brush Prairie. My mom used to pick berries for them. That was the Koskis. I'm sorry that you, yeah, anyhow, sorry to ask.
No,
Okay,
that's
thank you.
There's not very many of us out there, but
No,
I'm
not too
really-
many, not too many. Okay,
Thanks.
moving well, and we see you missed your chance. You could have been on the Ag Advisory Commission. Okay. All right, thank you, folks. Let's move on. We're going to go back to number 5, the retreat agenda and feedback. Mo and Lauren.
Okay, I can start here, but we sent out, I think scheduling is the primary goal for tonight, if we can. So I did send out a scheduling poll and 8 of you answered it, so thank you. Of the 8, we have 6 who are available on March 18th. Obviously not now the morning of that day, because you're going to be, half of you are going to be at the hearing, work session, sorry. So either the afternoon or evening of March 18th, and 6 of you are available to just extend our next meeting, March 25th, to be a 4-hour meeting. So those of you who didn't respond, it'd be helpful for you to chime in now. And if we can get that scheduled before we leave tonight, that would be helpful.
All right. Mo, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I think scheduling is number 1, and then I can start to float agenda by folks.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And just
Anything
to
else?
clarify, if we extended the meeting, the regular meeting, it would be a 4 p.m. start time.
I see.
Not extending to 10 p.m.
Okay. Yeah. We better know. That's past my bedtime.
Can we do like a little show of hands of people in the room and people online and how many people could join for each of those options?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so first option, preference for March 18th, afternoon, early evening.
All right. I'll give you guys all 30 seconds to check your calendar. All right. It looks like Justin Berger has his hand up. Zora, are you a yay or an A?
I unfortunately am out that week.
Okay.
Okay, and then March 25th, 4 to 8 p.m.
4 to 8. Okay. I think
So there's 8 for that, right?
There we
in the
go.
room. 8 for that one, 6 for March 18th. So maybe we,
Okay. It's looking like March 25th is probably going to be the better one. Yeah.
2 hours longer. Yeah, and we will work on a location. It may be at an alternative location. not
Right.
this room.
Right. Okay.
Probably will be.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to bring something up in the good of the order section concerning that. We'll get to it here.
Maybe one other thing is that
Yep.
Mo
Mhm.
developed a draft agenda for that retreat. And
Perfect.
Mo, if it's okay, I can send that out as a follow-up via email. And if people have
That would be great.
Mm-hmm.
That would be great.
things that they want to make sure get inserted into that agenda or comments you have, please.
Yep. That would be great. I'm going to just give like a quick overview of what we're hoping to do at the retreat and why we are asking for more time, and thank you. It's really to iron out the subcommittees. So last time we had that initial discussion of like the topics that people were really interested in. It's clarifying which topics we actually want to tackle in each of those subcommittees, the priority of the subcommittees, because there is so much on that list. And if we make everything a priority, nothing's a priority. So what do we want to actually get done in 2026? Clarifying who wants to be on which subcommittees. We're going to be hoping that subcommittees are 3 to 4 individuals and that everyone serves on one. I think some people might be interested in 2, but hopefully everybody is on one. And if you are on 2 and you're a real go-getter, but I'm worried about you in terms of time. Our hope is to spend a little bit of time in those subcommittees to actually determine how you want to meet, how often you want to meet, talking a little bit about what topics you have. So actually doing some small group discussion. And then coming back and sharing with the group. So maybe this is not going to take the full time, but my sense is if we want to try, my goal is to try to actually have folks be able to move some stuff forward, especially because it's getting to be spring, y'all. So if we can get some stuff really figured out and in that meeting, I think we're going to head into this season in better shape. Any questions on kind of that? I see Zora's hand.
I have a super important question. Are you guys going to feed us?
I heard there was going to be food, but I haven't actually heard it confirmed. So thank you, Zora. Let's get.
Hey, I just had a thought here. What do you guys think about potluck? We're all farmers here. I'm sure some of us can cook. I can boil water.
I heard there was budget to buy us food.
I would rather have the county buy us food if.
I will inquire.
Okay, Jose to inquire and get back to us. Okay, that's wonderful. Okay,
But
yeah,
yes,
I would.
there will be food.
Yeah, you know, I hear the jail serves bologna sandwiches. Okay, anything else on the retreat agenda or retreat and anything related? Thoughts? Concerns? Okay, well, it sounds like we have a date. We have a rough, we're going to be working on an agenda for that retreat, and we're going to be getting together. Okay, wonderful. Let's move on there, folks. Let's move on to the good of the order portion of the meeting. First of all, do we have any topics for future meetings from commission members? Anyone? Bueller? Okay. No? Okay. Go ahead, Diane. Yep.
Maybe this will come up in the retreat, but I'd like to have some conversation about the economics because we talked about that quite a bit at our last meeting. And I think it's a concern for everybody. So
but concerning what part of economics there, Diane?
well, maybe I guess I would like to see us have a survey or some kind of inventory of farms and types of farms in the county.
Sure. Okay.
As a way to start to sort of look at what economic development is needed and what that might look like. And I'm wondering if that's something that we can ask for or that we would need to do or how we would go about that.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I know some folks that have started looking into listing farms in the county. So yeah, great. Okay. Okay. Any other comments about that? Anyone? Okay. I did want to bring something up real quick. We did recently, just mentioned about the retreat, about, finding a place to hold that retreat. I don't want to just hit you all real quick here. But if you guys don't mind, I would love to pitch the idea of maybe trying to get the Luke Jensen Sports Center or sports facility. By the way, I'm looking to you, Lauren and Bart. I believe it has full functionality for meetings, and not to mention it's a little bit more centrally located in the county. Thoughts?
Yeah, I will check the calendar and see if we can get that reserved. Yeah, that's easy.
Okay. Okay. And I apologize about just, coming out with that, but I'd love to get input from the commission members real quick here. Does anybody, first of all, does everybody know where Luke Jensen is located? It's 78th Street, west of St. John's, almost to the Clark County Heritage Farm.
There's a bunch of like sports fields and courts and stuff, and then in the center there's a hexagonal building with a meter
on the second floor. Yeah.
Second floor. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, no, I'm sorry. A little bit better location. It's actually just east of Kingsway. Towards Kingsway. Yeah, it's sorry. I had to get my bearings there. Yeah, it's just east of Kingsway or was that Church of Christ or something like that? Yeah. Yeah. Does anybody have any strong opinions, positive or negative on that? No?
The AV for that room is fine. It's
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I've
done-
been in there many times. Yeah.
Done meetings in there. It's okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I guess, I suppose if we could, if you guys, unless there is a strong opinion against it, I would love to see about looking into that and possibly holding our meetings there. Yes, no?
You mean ongoing or just that one?
Sure. I would pitch it this way, if you guys don't mind. I'd love to just say, if we could, maybe we plan to have our retreat there. And if people feel that is a nicer, better location, again, maybe better centrally located, that we may choose to have more meetings there. Thoughts?
We'll just have to check the schedule, Joe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is the retreat just the extended meeting? Okay.
More or less, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, with county food, by the way.
My only hesitation about putting it at another location is that we do have county staff participate, and I'm just aware that thank you for always staying late for these commission meetings and for accommodating our schedule. And so I just wouldn't want to make it any more difficult for them to participate. And, you know, we do have staff come quite a bit.
Yeah.
I thank you for thinking of that. From my perspective, it's doesn't add anything logistically because I can pack up and drive home. Lauren goes north. Thank you, but I think it's fine.
Okay. Lauren, do you have any input on that?
We can talk. We can
Okay.
figure it out and
Okay.
talk about it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Well, with that, okay. One last call. Anybody else have anything else to talk about? Go ahead, Diane.
Not exactly Ag Commission related, but we are having a gathering
Yes.
tomorrow at Brothers Cascadia, 5 o'clock. Mike Peroni from Northwest Ag Business Center is going to be there. And so you all are invited.
Yeah. I would actually tell Miss Diane Dempster that is very much Ag Commission related. Yes, that is an open opportunity for all people to meet with. Diane, if you could tell just very so briefly, this is a gentleman who is
Okay.
to talk about.
Yeah, Northwest Ag Business Center is located in Mount Vernon, and they've started several grower co-ops in the state and have done a lot of work doing economic development for producers around the state. Mike is also a farmer himself out of Chehalis, and so I think he has a lot to share, and it's also just a good chance for us all to get together and find out who we are and meet and talk. And I will be also talking a little bit about Tilth Alliance and what Tilth does for farmers. So.
Wonderful. Okay. All right. All right. Well, with that, I thank you all for coming. I would take a motion to adjourn. Anyone?
Matthew, motion to adjourn.
All right. Second.
Dylan and I second that.
Okay. Dylan seconded. Took forever to get a second there. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Thank you. We are done. It is 8:03. Thank you guys very much.